sunrise. I don't know how this is going to look. I'm going to be quiet because everyone in the house is sleeping. But I had to show you. Oh, look how blue that is. I had to show you this sunrise this morning. Look at that. That's what I love, waking up before the sun rises. We have a client here in the UK called IQPC Exhibitions. Now, we shot 2 events for them last year, Microelectronics UK and FinTech Connect, pretty much towards the end of last year, September and I think December last year, so really at the end of the year. And I got an email from Beth, their marketing manager, saying that they were planning on taking the event to the US, right? Microelectronics US, and it's going to be in Austin, Texas. Now, they wanted the same level of service, they wanted the same quality of videos that they know that we're capable of producing. But when I spec'd up the job for us to fly out and do it, as you can imagine, with all of the additional travel costs on top of our standard production costs, the budget began to get out of hand for them. It was out of budget, seeing as this is their first show that they're doing in the US. After a few emails back and forth, what we pitched to Beth was a remote project management option for this project, which essentially means that we'll take care of the planning, we'll take care of the editing, but we'll actually get a local crew in Austin to come and film the event for us. Now, long story short, they ended up liking the option that we presented in terms of remotely managing the project. It was in budget, and I think the fact that we'd done 2 events with IQPC in the past meant that they trusted us enough to know that it was handled, as well as the fact that we do international projects regularly, right? So we work with international crews, we work with international freelancers, and manage to produce incredible projects. So they were confident that we could do it. Now, the event is in a couple of weeks, and goes without saying, but we've already interviewed, booked, hired the crew, all of that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into the detail in this video, at least, in terms of what I look for when I hire freelancers, just because I've done that in a previous video, and if you want to find it, you go back and find it on the channel. But what I did want to cover in this video today is ultimately going through my process in terms of how we're going to remotely manage this project, and answering the question of how do you trust someone that you've never met and only met over a Zoom call to go and work with your existing clients and do a good job. Now, the first step in that process is to get these guys a contract, right? That's the very first thing that I'm going to do, and that's what I've got on my tasks for today. I need to send the subcontractor service agreement, which covers a ton of different things, basically just like agreeing in writing everything that we're going to do together during the project, what time they need to show up, how much they're going to get paid, when they're going to get paid, don't turn up drunk, right? All of these different things that goes into the subcontractor service agreement. So that's what I'm working on today. I've also got a couple of calls, and then throughout the rest of the week, I'm going to explain to you everything else that we do to ensure that this project is successful, even though I'm here in the UK and the project is happening 5,000 miles away in Austin, Texas.
How did you get there? I was talking to you there. No, you're there.
What's he talking about, Harry?
So subcontractor service agreement got sent off and actually signed yesterday. So thank you for Zach for being so hot and so proficient on getting everything signed. What it's all about now is essentially talking through the 6 remaining documents outside of the actual subcontractor service agreement that's going to allow this team to have everything that they could possibly need to have a successful shoot. Now, the first document I think is really important to cover here is the OG production guide. You can see this is specific for the event just here. Now, essentially what this document is like the 101, right? Like the Bible. Essentially what this is how to work for OG films, how to shoot for OG films, how to behave on site, essentially giving them the very top level understanding of how I interact with clients on shoots, how I work, how I think about problem solving, all of that sort of stuff. It's essentially kind of like my production mind in a document. So our top value here is have fun. All right, we do our best work in a state of play and enjoyment, and if you're not enjoying it, then it shows in the work. we've also got win together, right? We're not here to help our clients just capture the event. We're here to help them grow it. So these things, you know, it really begins to kind of form in the mind of the team that's going to be on site exactly how we work, exactly how we go about doing things. We've got a section here just how to show up, right? So your energy, calm, warm, and confident. Events are high pressure environments and the client's got a lot going on. Your job's to make the day feel easier and not add to their stress. Moving quietly, working efficiently, and then letting the client feel looked after without them having to think about you, right? All of this sort of stuff is just so helpful for having that team on site understand exactly how we work, our culture, our values, everything like that, which means that it should be a pretty good indication, or they should, to the client, from a client's perspective, it should feel like this team is working in a very similar way to how we're working when they're on site with us in the UK. So those are the two freelancer or production company facing documents, right? Their contract and then the production guide, which is the 101. Now I want to kind of talk about the remaining documents that we produce for every single project, regardless of whether we're there on site or not, that kind of help the clients know that everything is handled, right? Everything that they want is essentially been covered, all the talking points and that sort of stuff. So first off, the event Q&A questionnaire. Now this is something that I do on a call with the clients. This is the foundation of everything that we do in pre-production. It's basically an hour session where we run through a ton of different questions, from logistics to coverage priorities to music choices, to theme, to style, to story, right? All of this. And that's why it's so important that I take care of this personally, because this is, like I said, the foundation in which every other document gets built from. After that's been completed, what we then do is do the creative plan. This is essentially us writing our own brief in the eyes of the clients, but it just means that all of that detail that we've taken from the Q&A, all of the story, all of the music, all of the way that we're going to shoot it, right, the objectives, all of that then goes into the creative plan, which they can then sign off or amend as and when they feel comfortable. From the creative plan, we then build out the full pre-production documents. So essentially this is every single piece of logistical information. It's just one place where everything is housed, right? So all of the other documents link out from the pre-production document itself, and it just is kind of a central hub to manage the entire project. And this is what either myself or the on-site team will be working out of throughout their time on site during the event. What we'd also produce as well would be a post-production editing brief, but for this project specifically, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be the one editing. It just means, I mean, the honest reason why is because Americans are super expensive compared to people in the UK. So when we're working with kind of UK-based clients' budgets, I'll then take on the post-production just to save additional margin within the project. And then finally, the main document that we work on throughout pre-production is the pre-production checklist. So this goes into 4 different stages. Essentially every single thing that we need to do between initial kind of contract signed all the way through to then the crew arriving on site, and just making sure that we're constantly managing and monitoring everything that needs to be done so that nothing gets missed, and all of the detail and all of the information that the on-site crew could ever need is all in one place, managed and signed off by us before they turn up. Shakira, Shakira, I don't really know that she could dance like this. What I think is also pretty important to mention in a video like this is how we're using AI nowadays within these processes. Now, you can't really get away with making a video like this in 2026 without talking about AI, but essentially the way that we use it is I have a Claude bot trained on all of these processes that I've mentioned. It's trained on the way that we do it, all of the template documents. I think it's also important to add that we had developed all of these systems and processes before Claude became a thing. So it's essentially trained on something that a human has already made, right, and has already thought through and has already kind of had their human touch throughout this entire process. But yeah, essentially I will do the initial Q&A call with our clients. I'll make all the notes, and then I will plug that document into our pre-production planning bot that will then draw out all of the additional documents that we need. And then we're just going through, we're checking, we're making sure that all of that lines up with the information that is already in the Q&A sheets, and everything makes sense, and that there's been no weird AI quirks that have gone through the entire documentation as well. So you may be thinking that 6 pre-production documents for a one-day event seems excessive. But I want to explain kind of why that is part of our process. Well, when we do the 48-hour turnaround projects, which most of our event projects are nowadays, it's so important that we cross the I's and dot the T's of every single piece of information or subjective opinion that we possibly can before the event, because that just saves on time in post-production. It means that now we don't have a crunch time, right? In terms of getting to the event, we can do the pre-production as far before the event as we possibly can. But after the event, we have 48 hours to get that thing turned around, which means that I would much rather do all of that information and have everything crystal clear as it possibly could be, and agree in writing between the client and myself and the production company everything that we're going to do, both logistically, visually, everything to do with the production before we actually get into the edit. And that's super important. Oh, that's hot. In my mind, my role for this project is getting a very clear vision from the client, putting that through a layer of how we're going to achieve it from a production perspective, and then translating that to the on-site crew that's going to come and film the event. And I think that all of these documents really just allow us to do that and do that effectively. And this is our second project, our second international project where I'm not going to be on site. So I'm definitely feeling a bit better about this one than I was in the previous one. Obviously you learn as you go, you learn what's missing and what to implement next time. And I really am looking forward to seeing the results of this shoot, because what it's going to show me is that ultimately this thing can exist. We can produce amazing projects. We can get incredible footage without me actually having to be the one on site or behind the camera or managing the team, which is obviously the goal, which is obviously the only way that we're going to be able to scale this, because my time is not infinite. It's not unlimited. And I think that if we're going to get to the point that I want to get to in my mind, then implementing processes like this and refining our pre-production systems so that they translate to the on-site experience for the client. And I think also giving the client what you could say is like the OG Films experience when I'm not there, is going to be something that I think is really critical moving into the future. So that is everything that I've got for you in this video. If there is anything else that you want to know more information on, anything that I've glossed over in this video, then do drop a comment down below. I'll make sure to come back to you either in a video or reply to the comment. If you are an event marketer, an event organizer, somebody who runs events and you want us to come and film your next event for you, there is a link down there in the description to our website. Other than that, hope you enjoyed everything, and I will catch you very soon. Take care.